Welcome to the Dukedom. Today, I'm going to give you my thoughts on the Moto Z2 Force Edition. Shatterproof screen, got the Moto mod capability, dual cameras. Is it worth your money? Let's check it out.
Here it is. Finally, a nice box from AT&T. Thank you, AT&T. Alright, I got my trusty dagger here to slice right into this bad boy. Just two small pieces of tape. Dagger out of the way. And let's get in here. Look at this. Isn't that just a wonder to see a nice box from AT&T? About freaking time. So the first thing in here, the useless let's get started material. And I can't even hold on to it. It's so lame. Nothing you really need to know in there. There's the Moto Z2 Force Edition itself. Let's set this aside for a second. Love that it can wait. Hate people texting and driving, so don't do it. Deeper in, we've got some more paperwork, a nice little adapter because there is no headphone jack. That's right, USB only. Little SIM card tool. You get your nice fast charging adapter, a pretty decent cable, and that, my friends, is it. There's nothing else in this box. I always look though. And now the moment that we all love. Let's remove that plastic, shall we? Few things are as satisfying in life as removing one of those pieces of plastic. On my first impression of this phone, right out of the box, it's simple, understated, and pretty nice. I have to say, I was more impressed than I thought I'd be.
When you break down this phone, there's a couple of things that stand out, besides what it's trying to sell you on. The shatterproof screen, the Moto mods, those are all great. In fact, I love how this phone feels. Even though it feels definitely less premium than an iPhone, any Samsung phone, it still feels nice. Like, it feels good in the hand, it's very light. And whereas, normally a premium phone has a lot of heft and weight from the metal and premium build quality materials, I don't mind that in this phone. And this is a phone that, despite some of its shortcomings, and there's definitely quite a few, I really like this phone. And I think that comes down to the experience of using it. So this reminds me a lot of my Pixel because it's pretty much pure vanilla Android. Motorola does, or just Moto, they do add a few features that they've been doing for a while now, and they've been running this very pure vanilla Android for quite some time. And if you watch any tech reviewers, I'm sure you know, like Mr. Mobile loves the Moto products. He's not a fan of this one per se. The price point is just a little too steep for him, and I definitely agree with that. But I feel like this is an amazing device, and it's not getting a lot of play and a lot of coverage. And yeah, the mods are gimmicky. There's a lot of value to be added as far as battery life. The projector's cool. Speaker, you're really having to invest in the ecosystem, which Motorola, not necessarily known for, being a robust ecosystem that you want to divert a lot of your funds to. But if you do get some very interesting things. But that's not why I like this phone. In fact, the camera, it's okay. I felt like the image stabilization was decent. In some ways better than my Pixel, which is astoundingly good. But in a lot of ways not. And yeah, the camera's not as sharp. Its dynamic range is not as good. The black and white secondary camera, that's cool. It doesn't really add a whole lot. And the whole portrait mode it tries to do, it just really fails at miserably. You can still get really good photos with this thing, don't get me wrong. I feel like today, any flagship phone, it's going to have a decent camera. You're splitting hairs on a lot of stuff. But the experience of using this, the way it's so light, and the screen, I actually really enjoyed the screen. I felt like the distance from the glass to the actual image was very short, smaller so than my Pixel, and I love my Pixel. But after holding my Pixel, which is much more fragile and has to be in a case because it's a Pixel XL and it's just too big for my tiny little hands, this thing felt really comfortable, really secure. I don't need a case for it. I love that. Granted, this, super scratch. I mean, this thing is so scratchable. This would be the only phone I'd recommend a screen protector, which is ironic because you can't shatter this. But I wouldn't get the screen protector because I'm afraid of shattering it. I'd get the screen protector because I don't want to scratch it. What it really comes down to is using the phone. The experience of using it is superb. It's like using a Pixel. And I always love the Nexus phones. I love the Pixel. It has its shortcomings too, but the software experience makes up for all of that. I feel like this phone does the same thing. The software experience also makes up for some of its shortcomings. One thing that was really hard to get used to with this phone, there's barely a difference in spacing between the 3 buttons. And there is a slight textured bit on here. I don't know if it's because I have callous thumbs. I really can't feel the difference very easily unless I run my nail down it. I can't tell you how many times trying to power the phone, turn the screen on or turn the screen off, I would hit the volume button. Very poor decision. I mean, I feel like you could have easily put the power button right over here, or just put it lower, made it bigger, something. They're just too similar in size. That's really like my biggest gripe with the phone. The camera, flash is great. Love what Moto does with the chop chop. Love that. The action twist. The Pixel's my daily driver, so I'm very used to how it works. The double tap the power button to launch the camera, I love that. I love it so much I don't have a shortcut on the home screen or on the bottom for the camera app. I just double click the power button every time. Whether the phone's on, phone's off, I'm in an app, doesn't matter. It works every time. Super useful. I tried to do the same thing with the Moto Z2 Force, but its action is a double twist, which it works really well. But when you're on the go, I found that 80% of the time it would work, which is not good enough to eliminate a button. So in the end, I would just have to open the phone, touch a button. One of the other things I love about this phone, front-facing speaker. It's so nice. It's not the loudest, it's not the best, but when you're sitting there and it's facing you, it makes a world of difference. I never accidentally cover it up with my hand. The screen's great, call quality's good. I mean, everything about it is really excellent. The battery life is abysmal. You can get a Moto mod that has a bunch of battery in it, and that's fantastic. But then you lose the slim form factor. It's an extra thing. You have to charge it as well. You can charge them together, of course, but I like the idea of it more than I like the practice of it. It's just one of those things where I think modularity, as awesome as it is to talk about and to think about and to dream about and to use to an extent, in reality, it's not as practical as we'd like it to be. I don't think it's as scalable or as profitable for companies to do, and so I really don't think it's going to last. I mean, and at least not in the next 5 years. Maybe after that, when technology kind of, I don't know, supersedes itself and becomes more able to integrate with other things, I think modularity is just gonna slowly die away. Another nice feature of the Moto Z is the front-facing camera has a flash. So if you really need those selfies at night, you're taken care of. There's a lot to love about this phone. It works extremely well. It never really hiccups. It's going to get updates fairly soon because it is a pretty pure Android experience. It has a decent camera. The gimmicks fall short and aren't very useful. The modularity, you know, if you're into it, it's really cool. If you're not, it's kind of, It charges really fast. You know, it charges extremely fast. I mean, it blew my Pixel out of the water as far as charging speed. It's an understated, simple, great device that's overpriced. And, you know, for the money, you can get better, but not necessarily a better user experience. Battery life being the only thing that really holds this thing up from me buying it personally. But otherwise, I really love this phone. I think Mr. Mobile's right. You can go with the cheaper version and get almost all the things that make this phone great at a much more affordable price. And that's been my thoughts on the Moto Z2 Force. Should you get it? Probably not. Is that unfortunate? Yeah, because it's a pretty spectacular device. Until next time.